boys and girls. Just thought I'd do a little video, just for other people's benefits really. I'm just having a bit of a sort out with some of my spare components in the garage that I keep. So I just want to talk about different speed controllers and pumps, and also different options of controllers and why you should go with certain types over others. Most people go for the Shurflows. Shurflows, I think, are proven one of the best pumps there. Very reliable. Some of the ones we got, these pumps, this is a spare one, this is an old one, knackered, but I keep them for spares because still good components in them to use. But some of these we have in our vans have been going 8-9 years without a problem, but that's through good setup and not abusing them. And I'll show you and talk about some of the most common faults you get and the best way to set them up. So a lot of people, obviously it's down to price. If you buy a decent one of these Shurflow pumps is about 80-90 quid, and then to buy a decent controller, I think, what are they, another 70-80 quid. So you've got different options of speed controllers. You've got intelligent ones or non-intelligent ones. So this is a non-intelligent speed controller that I made up actually for to get someone going. This literally cost, well, the speed controller in there was tenner, and then this box was like a couple of quid, you know, and we used that for a year, but eventually swapped over to an intelligent system. Now these work, basically you see a lot of these on eBay and people set them up. So yes, they're cheap and they do work, and basically it's a digital DC speed controller, and it just varies the speed output. There's not a lot more to it than that. It's just on and off the speed. Now what you need when the water gets up to pressure, when you're not flowing, with this system you're relying on the pressure switch in here to turn the motor off, and it happens mechanically with a micro switch, and it works. Yes, it does work, but you can have problems where one day it will just start faffing around. 1 minute it'll work, next minute it won't, it'll start pulsing, or maybe it'll just stop working completely. And that'll be to do with this micro switch in the top here. I've tried using these cheap Chinese diaphragm pumps. That was a tenner, and we had that and that in a van running. This was incredibly noisy, but he ran this for a year and it worked. These do not work very well because the pressure switches in them go so high you just start leaking water out of every joint, and to get these to work you have to run a separate pressure switch next to it. I personally would not bother with these. Yes, you can do it, but they're just literally a nightmare and a faff. If you just go and spend the money a little bit and get yourself a decent intelligent controller, either an analog one or a digital one. I prefer the digital ones. This is just a spare analog one I've got here. I've got digital ones in my van, and a Shurflow pump. Now the main thing people don't realise about these pumps and controllers, an intelligent pump does not need this pressure switch. Now I come from a mechanical background. Now anything that moves wears, and anything that wears needs maintenance. This is your weak spot here. Okay, this will wear, the components in the pump will wear over time, but there's a way we can get a longer life out of this motor, and that's just setting it up in the right way. So first thing I always do is I take out, well, I just bypass the switch. So all you have to do is just literally connect up straight out the bottom of the motor. Don't bother with the wiring to the pressure switch, just take it off. You do not need it with an intelligent controller. The way the intelligent controllers work, as far as I understand, this is my guess, is it works on the resistance of the windings under the different loads, and it knows when it's under a certain load, and then it will, what they call it, dead end. You set the dead end, which is the pressure switch turn off, and because it works like that, there's no movable physical switch. So you've literally improved your reliability massively in this system, unlike a basic speed controller and pump with a mechanical switch. You can do it, just be prepared that you need to carry micro switches, and you've got to be prepared to switch them out. So most people don't realise you can take that out. A lot of people have them set up run an intelligent controller with going through the mechanical switch still. Now, one of the most common things I see on Facebook groups, window cleaning groups, is that is P5, I can't get rid of this P5 fault. P5 is open circuit. That means it's disconnected somewhere. 80% of the time, it is this switch inside here. And guess what? People change around and put a new one in. You don't even need the thing, just disconnect it, bypass it. So immediately you've improved reliability. The other thing I've seen is people running these pumps above waterline. You really want these pumps as low below, you want it below the water level, really as low as you can get it. I mean, in small vans, like we used to have Blingos when we first started out, I would set these up in the footwell, but under the seat in the Blingo van, and so it was below the tank, so it would always have a good header pressure to it. So that means you never have problems with airlocks. It's always bled. You can run that tank dry out of water, just put water in it and it just bleed itself immediately. If you have this pump on the side of the tank, which you can, it's still fine most of the time, but then people start putting them above the tank or right up in the air. I've seen them right up in the side of the van because people are worried about getting them smashed. You start doing that, you will have problems priming them. And then secondly, that pump is working a lot harder. So the difference it makes is massive. We have them set up as low as we can, but just off the ground, and we set them up. Imagine this is the side of the tank and this is the floor here. We set them up this way round, this way up, and the reason is, if you set them this way up, if you get a leak at your connectors here, the water will drain down and go inside and it'll rot out the bushes and the wiring, and then that decreases your sort of the liability of it. So if you have it that way, you'll get a drip, but it'll just drip down. Okay, it might go into the switch, but if you've got that bypassed anyway, it's not an issue. It'll just drip down into the ground. So we have that set up so there's a bit of gap between the floor, the van, and that. That means you've got maximum sort of pressure on the pump from water, no priming issues. So when they're that low, they literally, on our digital controllers, we run them about 20. You can't hear the thing running. They're quiet as. I wish I had my van here actually, my father-in-law's got it today. I'd be able to show you how quiet they run. You can't hear them. And when they're running, just ticking over like that all day, they don't get hot, and they're not, the wear is so low on them because they're not labouring, and they will last 8-10 years. Honestly, they really will if you look after them, and as long as they're not getting wet and that they're not in a place where they're going to get bashed into by things. So the next thing is literally making sure that, I would never use spade connectors. The first thing I'd do with that is I would chop them, solder them, and use heat shrink. Because any spade connector like that, you'll get corrosion in a damp atmosphere, and then that's another weak link. Speed controller, I'd get it out of the way, get us maybe quite high in the van, because somewhere it's not going to get hit by anything. and get everything in trunking and clipped down. So yeah, this pump here was given to me because they said, oh, it doesn't work. This pump is 6 months old. I know straight away what's wrong with it. It's this pressure switch. It runs fine. There's nothing wrong with this pump. So I've got a spare pump here, and this is a spare pump here that was given to me. I haven't taken it apart, but a lot of the time when they do go wrong, I make good ones up out of the bads. So what else is there to talk about? Get your pumps low. Get them ticking over. I've seen some really bad startups in my time. Honestly, I've known a lot of window cleaners. Some people, obviously, not everyone is mechanically minded or very good at things. That's fine. But I've seen someone who didn't want to splash out on a speed controller, and so what they were doing to reduce the flow, they just had it straight through it was like a light switch, which is fine. You can do that if you really want. And then they had it going on a 12-volt battery, and this thing was running full blast. And then what they did to restrict the flow is they literally put like a gate tap, like you would have on a sink type thing or an outside wall, and to restrict the flow, he would just turn it down. So basically, this thing was screaming its head off, pushing really hard, and he was only getting like 6 months out of these pumps. And I went to him, I wonder why, you know, because he was just working it so hard. I know other guys who have like 3 blokes working off one of these pumps, and it's just screaming all day long. They only get 6 months out of them. They're just getting too hot and working the nuts off them. So get them low, let them tick over. It will make a big difference. Yeah, P5 code. Go straight for your switch, check that. If not, always check your connectors for corrosion everywhere. And the other thing is, if you know, they can corrode, the wiring can corrode inside here, and also the springs can break on the side of the brushes. The springs can break and the brushes can break down. So yeah, it's keeping them dry, make sure they don't get corroded. So yeah, that's the trick. It makes a big difference just doing basic things. All the best, guys, and hopefully I can make a few little bit more videos to hopefully improve people's sort of quality of their vans, to improve their window cleaning. Less breakdowns, more profit. That's what it's about.